Good morning. Hopefully all you patriots are having a great Saturday morning this morning. Glad you could join me. Just going to wait just a couple minutes here to get a few more folks on. I know it's early on Saturday, but you can certainly replay this video. So folks, 3 days ago I said that I was going to put out a list, and this list includes state candidates for state office, from governor, state senate, state rep. Does not include congressional races. It does not include anything federal, does not include any nonpartisan or judicial. It's just state races. And what this list is, folks, is these are candidates that have been endorsed by Betsy DeVos or her PAC, the Great Lakes Education Project. And these are candidates who have openly advertised that endorsement, or they have been advertised by the PAC or Betsy DeVos. But I want, before you take a deep dive, and that list is attached to this video, and please share this too, by the way. Before you take a deep dive, let me give you some criteria of how I made this list. Okay, this is not all inclusive. I didn't look at Democrat races in the state of Michigan. As far as I'm concerned, the Democrat strongholds, the Democrats are America last anyway, so by default, they're automatically on the list. What I looked at was races where you have supposed Republicans running in primaries. There are people that have been endorsed by the Great Lakes Education Project. There are candidates, incumbents, that do not have a primary, so I did not include them on the list. Case in point, one of the representatives here in Livingston County, Ann Bolin, is endorsed by GLEP. That's the abbreviation for Great Lakes Education Project, but she doesn't have a primary challenger. She did, but Chase Turner did not make the ballot. So it doesn't make a difference. She's not going to have a primary challenge. There are other candidates that I did talk to that were endorsed but had absolutely no idea, and I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They haven't advertised it. They claim they haven't taken any money. And by the way, folks, we're not going to know if any of these people took money from the Great Lakes Education Project or Betsy DeVos until after the primary, because that's when the filings come out. Other people like Mr. Keeler, who was running against Angela Regas. Great Lakes Education Project attacked Regas severely, just like they tried to do with me. And he actually came out and denounced them and rejected their endorsement, and then they unendorsed him and attacked him, so he's not on the list. There are other candidates around the state, though, that, they have, if you look at their social media, if you look at their websites, there's nothing about election integrity in there, so be very, very careful. When you're looking at this list, grab your voter ID card if you have it, or your ballot if you're voting absentee, and find out what district you're in. At the bottom of the list, I've included the link to the Michigan Secretary of State, so you can see every single race, everybody who's going to be on the primary ballot, and look at your card, find out what district you're in, and then look at the names on the list and find out if that matches who's running in your district. If these candidates, and look for yourself too, by the way, folks, in every one of these that are on this list, the majority are incumbents, which means that they're currently office holders in Lansing. They're either state reps running for re-election, state senators running for re-election, or state senators running for state rep, or state reps running for state senate. The vast majority are currently incumbents, and they have advertised the endorsement. Now, you might say, Mike, why in the world are you bringing this up? By the way, just so you know, I believe I'm the only candidate in the state of Michigan who has produced this list. I promised all of you that I was going to shed a spotlight on what's going on in Michigan, and it starts now, and I'll do the same thing from the state Senate. You need to know, and the people of Michigan have been duped far too long. Now you might say, well, Mike, what's wrong with the Great Lakes Education Project? They're all for school choice and school vouchers, and are they? Are they really? The Great Lakes Education Project was funded and founded by Betsy DeVos, and if you look at the funding for this organization, is primarily funded by the DeVos family. Dick DeVos, Betsy DeVos, cousins, aunts, uncles, kids. They've dumped huge money in this. Betsy DeVos was appointed as Education Secretary by President Trump. All right. President Trump made an effort in good faith to bring establishment types, and especially Betsy DeVos, into his administration to try to bridge the gap between the grassroots Trumpers and the what is now being called the traditional Republicans, which is code for your swampers. These are your establishment Republicans. So he tried to bridge that gap. And unfortunately, President Trump was stabbed in the back by these people time and time again. And Betsy DeVos is no exception. After the 2020 election, Betsy DeVos actively sought to Article 25, remove President Trump from office, and she even approached Mike Pence on this, and Mike Pence told her no. Now you fast forward into the 2022 election cycle, when President Trump got into the endorsement business across the country, not just here in Michigan, the DeVos organization and their affiliates started attacking Trump-endorsed candidates. There is a war going on between the DeVos establishment wing of the Republican Party and President Trump's America First faction of the Republican Party. And you have candidates in between. Here in Michigan, what's happened is the DeVos machine, under the guise of the Great Lakes Education Project, went out and attacked, viciously slandered and libeled Trump-endorsed candidates, not just me, but others, on behalf of their endorsed candidates, like Senator Theis. And it has largely backfired on them because people they're not stupid. And unfortunately, the DeVos clan, because they're the elites, believe that you're not smart enough to know what's going on. And you know what? You are. And so another big miscalculation, thank God, on their part. But that's what's going on. And so I started doing a deep dive into candidates around the state of Michigan who are endorsed. Now, the vast majority of the incumbents that are endorsed by this PAC, you cannot say at this point in time, especially with all the news coming out about the DeVos involvement, and at the top of the ticket, especially with Tudor Dixon, and what is going on, there is no way, there's no reason why any of these candidates out there, incumbent or not, don't know what's going on. They can no longer plead, well, we just didn't know. There's a couple that did, and I believe them. But the incumbents who have been in office for a while, they know what's going on. They know who is behind these PACs. Another interesting thing, folks, as you go through this list and you find it, you'll see that the vast majority of the candidates who are endorsed by the Great Lakes Education Project are also endorsed by the same list of PACs. Folks, candidates get stacks of mailers. They get them in their inbox and their email. They get them in their mailbox for questionnaires for all these different special interests. I spent some time on a couple, the NRA, Right to Life of Michigan, Realtors Association. All three of those have policies where they endorse the incumbent regardless if the incumbent was endorsed before. So challengers don't even get a swing at the bat. You go through the motions. So I don't particularly care for any of these PACs. I don't want their money. I'm not interested. I'll sit down and talk to any of them. That's fine, just like I would any voter. But I'm not taking their money. So when I got that stack of mailers to fill out the questionnaires, you know what I did with it? I threw it right in the trash. But that's not most candidates. Most candidates are glad to get an endorsement from a PAC. They're happy to get some money from them because campaigns are expensive. And so, but there's no excuse for not knowing who is funding these PACs, and it's guilty by association. As you go through this, you're going to see that there are candidates that are endorsed by Great Lakes Education Project. Look at their challengers. Be careful, because in some of the races I discovered, the challengers don't have much information out there. There's really nothing to go on. So you as the voters really need to take a deep dive and start asking questions. If you have already voted, if you voted absentee, and by the way, you're not going to hear any other candidates telling you this either, and you can do this. If you think you made a mistake and you voted for the wrong candidate, it's not too late. You can go to your clerk's office, your county clerk, ask them to scuttle your old ballot, and they will have you sign a form, and you take a new ballot and you re-vote. You have up until August 2nd to do that. And that leads me to another issue. Last election cycle, I talked to a lot of voters who went to vote on election day, and they were told, sorry, you can't because you already voted, when they, in fact, hadn't. So this is why it's important on August 2nd, get out as early as you can to vote, because if you run into that, and somebody fraudulently voted for you, then go to your clerk's office and tell them what happened, tell them to scuttle the old ballot, and they'll give you a new one, and then you can vote. So I had voters last time, they say, well, they threw their hands up and they thought that they were just screwed. They're not. You're not. So keep that in mind. What we won't know until after the primary is the money. So these PACs, like the Great Lakes Education Project, are giving money directly to candidates. They have in the past, or they're spending their own money to trash other candidates. And folks, this is there is no such thing as vote red. And by the way, if you normally don't vote in primaries, and you're one of these people that you always vote straight ticket in November, that's fine. But keep in mind that it's not necessarily vote red in November if we don't get it right in the primary. So this is where scrutiny really comes into play, because if you vote for the wrong candidate in the primary, if you have a primary, it may be some shade of purple in November that you have for a choice. So this is why it's so important. And generally, only 12 to 15% of registered voters participate in primaries. So it's important. Get people out, educate them on what's going on, share this list. And if you'll notice at the top of the list, when you scroll down, you'll see Tudor Dixon at the top. I was very disappointed when she embraced the DeVos family. I personally do not believe, if she is the nominee, that she's going to defeat Whitmer, and let me tell you why. She's very measured. If you look at the debates, the gubernatorial debates right now, and since her endorsement by the DeVos family, she's very measured on what she says or what she doesn't say. So basically what you're going to have is, if it's a debate between Whitmer and Tudor Dixon for the November election, they're going to be talking about things that most voters just don't give two squirts of duck shit about. It's just the way it is. And you've got, right or wrong, and there's a lot of Republicans out there, and especially establishment Republicans, who tell new candidates, focus on the squishy moderate independents. Be careful, and each district is a little bit different. I truly believe that there are more voters out there who are not squishy. These are your gun-toting, Bible-thumping, basket of deplorables like me, who are fed up of being lied to, who are fed up of being deceived and are intelligence insulted. And those voters showed up in mass for President Trump. Those voters are the same voters that the establishment does not want to show up, because as far as they're concerned, those voters are unreliable. And they don't just vote straight ticket. They vote for people that they actually believe are not lying to them. And so candidates out there, please take this as some advice. You can either tell me to go pound sand, believe it or not. But if you're out there campaigning, you need to reach out to the voters who are pissed. And those are the majority of the voters out there. All right. Those are the people that are going to show up in a primary, but you're going to have to convince them that you mean business and you're not lying to them. Do not insult their intelligence. Be honest with them. If we do that, then there's a big group of us that'll go to Lansing, and we're going to turn things on their heads. We're going to turn this ship around. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take some time. But folks, if you, the voters, just vote willy-nilly or don't show up, don't forget, this is an open primary state. So if you're not voting, I guarantee you there's a Democrat in your district that's going to vote for you, and they're not going to vote for the candidate that you would want to vote for in November. So please show up. Take a look at this list. Go to the website for the state, find your district, and start asking questions. Now, there's an anomaly, but I'm going to close with this. There is one candidate that is not on this list who is endorsed by President Trump. He was endorsed back in December of 2021. I was endorsed in November. He was endorsed in December. He is also endorsed by the Great Lakes Education Project. His name is Mike Hoadley. I've met him a couple times. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't know him well. But he's endorsed by both. Now, is that a one-off? Folks, nothing in politics happens by accident. So there's more to the story than what meets the eye. I would ask some serious questions of him and find out why he is still advertising the Great Lakes Education Project when he's endorsed by President Trump, because these people are actively trying to destroy Trump-endorsed candidates around the state. So make sure that you do that. Get involved, ask questions. There's the list. That's the backstory. So it's up to you at this point in time. We're 10 days to go until the primary. We're going to need all hands on deck. This is huge. I cannot stress the importance of this. This is huge. You've got a lot of players out there. You've got a lot of PACs. You've got a lot of candidates who are perhaps masquerading as one thing and they're entirely something else. Look at their stuff with scrutiny. Look at their social media. Are there any mentions of election integrity? Are there any mentions of an audit? Are there any mentions of fixing the auto insurance in the state? Are there any mentions of reducing the budget? Are there any mentions of cutting taxes? Or is it the same old platitudes and talking points? You'll see a couple candidates out there, and one in particular who wears the reddish glasses, and that's supposedly a Trump group. She is endorsed by the Great Lakes Education Project, so you need to ask her some questions. If you support President Trump and America First policies, why are you openly advertising a group that is diabolically opposed and diametrically opposed to that philosophy? So, folks, that's it. That's the list. Please share it. If you have questions, please reach out. I love all of you. For those of you who have been asking for signs, I'm trying. We got more in. My signs are disappearing faster than they're going up. I had a big one that disappeared on private property right along M59, right in front of the Dominican Sisters. They took my big sign and the post in the middle of the night, so it's nasty stuff. So we're trying to keep up with the signs. But at this point in time, it's all up to you. You guys know what's going on. I have faith in you. And by the way, one thing that the establishment is terrified of is that you, the patriots, are actually going to show up in this primary. They're terrified of that because it changes the entire dynamic of Lansing if you do. So I'm counting on you. The other America First patriots are counting on you. But again, look carefully at those candidates. All right. Love all of you. Happy Saturday. Hopefully everybody's doing good out there. I love you. I'm going to do one more Facebook Live before the election. I'm just going to basically recap the entire campaign. And, it's, again, it's up to you. You're the employers. I'm not taking any special interest money. I'm not going to do that in the future. I'm beholden only to you. I'm going to restore your voice and your power in Lansing from this seat. And I got to tell you, here's the good news out of all of this. In my discussions with candidates from around the state over the last few months, there is a whole lot of us, if we get elected, and they're not all endorsed by President Trump, by the way, but these are America First patriots from the governor all the way down. If we get in there, we have 2 elections to get through. This primary is the first step. This separates the patriots from the rhinos. The second election is the November election. That's the patriots against the Democrats, okay, and their communist agenda. We get through these 2 elections and get into Lansing. There's a large group of us that are going to change the full direction of Lansing. And that's what the swamp is terrified of. They don't want change. They don't want candidates who are not beholden to the special interests. They don't want people going in without strings attached. And that's going to happen, and it's going to be big, and it's going to be beautiful. So, but it's up to you. It's totally up to you. You have the power. We don't. The candidates don't. There's a lot of politicians that want you to believe that they're in control and they have a big, pretty smile and they got lots of money. It's up to you. So I have faith in you. Love all of you, and we'll talk to you soon.